It was one of those pristine spring mornings, the sort that allows you to momentarily overlook the lingering ache in your back from the winter's grasp. The clock had struck 7, and I found myself in the kitchen, cradling a cup of lukewarm coffee, my mind busy crafting a mental inventory of all the items awaiting my careful packing. As my lease drew to a close, I found myself on the brink of a new chapter, ready to downsize after 23 years in the same abode, parting with a dwelling steeped in memories, where each chipped corner and worn cabinet handle whispered stories of the past, was no simple task, yet I felt prepared. Thus, I reassured myself. The company had provided a moving stipend, which was certainly helpful, yet it did not come with additional assistance, and I was well aware of the folly in attempting to lift heavy boxes alone. I had already strained my shoulder the previous week while lugging my old printer down to the car. So, when my boss Miriam called to inquire about the progress of the move and nonchalantly suggested sending her son over to lend a hand, I found myself agreeing before fully considering the implications. I was aware of Jason. Our paths had crossed once before, during a festive gathering at the office. He presented his mother with a new scarf, remaining largely silent, yet I couldn't help but recall how striking he appeared. He possessed a serene assurance that many men develop in their 30s, a quality that requires no validation. A brief exchange of pleasantries, a firm handshake, and then it was over. When Miriam mentioned he would arrive by 10, I found myself harboring little expectation. At precisely 9:58, the doorbell chimed. I opened the door, and there he stood, tall and exuding that familiar calm energy, clad in well-worn jeans and a faded flannel shirt, with his sleeves rolled up and a small tool bag casually slung over one shoulder. He exuded a sense of readiness and purpose. Upon my opening the door, a smile graced his lips, a genuine smile, not one of those courteous, businesslike expressions. "I am Miss Harper Wright," she replied, extending her hand once more. "My name is Jason. My mother mentioned that you might benefit from a touch of strength today." I chuckled, moving to the side. "Refer to me as Diane." Indeed, with a sense of urgency, I might have misjudged my capacity to tackle the monumental task of clearing out a lifetime's worth of clutter on my own. He entered, surveying the living room now overrun by piles of half-packed boxes, some tightly sealed while others gaped open, their flaps jutting out like tiny paper wings. "You have accomplished quite a bit thus far." "I have completed all the straightforward tasks I mentioned. What remains are the tasks I have been delaying." Ah, the treasures of yesteryear. Those dusty files, the worn pages of books, the cherished photo albums, and the cluttered garage. Jason smiled broadly. "It appears we are about to embark on a journey through some forgotten recollections." He pushed his sleeves up further and set to work with determination. I indicated the items that required lifting and packing, making an effort to refrain from hovering. Yet, there was an unsettling quality to his presence that lingered in the air. Not in a negative sense, but in a manner that heightened my sensitivity to the serene pauses we shared. It was as if he presented me with a framed photo that had quietly slipped behind a cabinet. It captured a moment of my late husband and me, during the early days of our life in this house we had just purchased. Jason regarded it for a brief moment before handing it over to me. "Your happiness shines through in this moment." I inclined my head in agreement. We existed. It was an age past. He departed from this world 8 years ago. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "Such a loss. It lingers in the shadows, forever etched in the fabric of your being. Doesn't it?" "No," I confessed, my fingers gliding along the contours of the frame. "It intertwines with your very essence, akin to a second heartbeat." Silence enveloped the moment, and we pressed on with our tasks. Yet, an undeniable change had occurred. After that, his gaze held a gentle warmth as it met mine, a subtle form of reverence that took me by surprise. The following hour unfolded in the garage, where we meticulously sifted through boxes filled with forgotten tools, paint cans, and items untouched for years. He stumbled upon an old wood carving I had long since forgotten, a project I had embarked upon in my early 40s, yet never brought to completion. "You created?" he inquired, lifting it aloft. It was challenging, somewhat inconsistent, yet still commendable for someone just starting out. I certainly did. Once, I found great joy in the art of crafting with my hands. Life intervened. He examined it with a lingering gaze. It would be wise to return to it. Your perception of shape is remarkable. Though it was merely a fleeting compliment, its impact resonated far more profoundly than one might expect. Perhaps it was in the manner of his delivery. It wasn't merely an act of politeness. He truly meant every word. It was as if he had glimpsed a secret I had long kept hidden from the world. By noon, we had achieved significant strides. The living room stood nearly empty, and I urged him, pause for a moment. As the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, I prepared turkey sandwiches for us. We settled at the quaint table by the kitchen window, ready to enjoy our simple meal together. I inquired, attempting to engage in light-hearted dialogue. What occupies your time when you're not assisting your mother's colleagues with their relocations? He let out a soft chuckle. I engage in freelance design consulting, dabbling in architecture, primarily focusing on interior renovations and small-scale projects. Nothing particularly glamorous. That clarifies the presence of the tool bag, I remarked. Your hands bear the mark of a creator, one who constructs and shapes the world around them. Jason's gaze lingered on me for a heartbeat, his expression a mystery I couldn't decipher. I enjoy crafting environments that evoke emotion, transcending mere functionality, to foster a sense of belonging and personal connection. I inclined my head with deliberation, such a rarity in today's world. For a time, we lingered in quietude, savoring our meal while observing the breeze dance through the branches beyond the window. I can't quite put my finger on what it was about that moment. The stillness, the feeling of mutual comprehension in the way he regarded me, not with sympathy, but with genuine curiosity, with attentiveness. Suddenly, he inquired, was it difficult to part with the house? I hesitated before responding. Indeed, yet not for the reasons one might assume. It's neither the walls nor the yard nor the floor plan. It is the specters. They remain silent, yet they harbor a strong aversion to change. He smiled, a gesture not of mockery, but of contemplation. At times, it requires the presence of a fresh soul to find harmony with the lingering shadows of the past. That sentence lingered in my mind. Long after we resumed our packing, long after he had hefted the final heavy box into the hallway, even as he prepared to depart, dust clinging to his shirt and a bead of sweat glistening at his temple, I discovered an unwillingness to let the day slip away. Once more, I expressed my gratitude as I accompanied him to the door. Whenever he responded, he came to a halt. Would it be all right if I returned tomorrow? It appears that we have only just begun, and I find myself with some time to spare. A sensation began to awaken within my chest. Perhaps it was a sense of gratitude. Perhaps it was a sense of wonder. Perhaps it was an emotion I hadn't experienced in what felt like an eternity. I would appreciate that, I murmured softly. I would greatly appreciate that. With the door clicking shut behind him, I found myself leaning against it, my heart fluttering in a way I hadn't anticipated. Today, it wasn't just the boxes that were in motion. There was a stirring within me as well. The following morning, I found myself lingering over the act of brushing my hair, extending the ritual just a touch longer than I typically would. I applied a delicate rose-tinted lipstick that had lain untouched for months. It wasn't out of a desire to impress Jason, or so I convinced myself. Rather, it was the simple pleasure of rediscovering the warmth of caring that drew me in once more. A peculiar energy enveloped the house, as if the very air had transformed, stirring something dormant within me to life. Jason made his entrance at approximately 10:30, a few moments later than he had the previous day. A wave of relief washed over me as I spotted him on the porch, that familiar relaxed smile gracing his face, a tray of iced coffees balanced in his hands. He extended one toward me, a knowing smile on his face. I thought you might appreciate something cold today, he remarked. You're already indulging me, I responded, accepting the drink with appreciation. Continue like this, and I may just have to bring you on board officially. He spoke of fair trade. You provide me with sandwiches. I elevate objects, we consider it a fair exchange. We began in the bedroom closet, the final genuine peak to conquer, before I sensed that the transition was genuinely in motion. The space brimmed with garments long untouched, relics of memories stored in boxes, and a drawer overflowing with an array of mismatched scarves. I lacked the resolve to part with it. While Jason wrestled with the weighty bins, I perched on the edge of the bed, sifting through a collection of aged journals. At a certain moment, I unlatched a small velvet box that was unfamiliar to me. Within lay a delicate silver bracelet, a cherished gift from my husband to commemorate our 15th anniversary. It had been years since I last laid eyes on it. My breath hitched in my throat. Jason observed. "Are you all right?" I nodded, allowing silence to envelop the space for a brief moment. The bracelet rested lightly in my palm, its coolness a stark contrast to the unexpected heaviness of the memory it held. I flipped it over and read the engraving on the back, just as I always do. The year before he passed, my husband gifted me this, and I finally spoke the words I had long held inside. My voice was gentler than I had meant it to be. We found ourselves navigating through a difficult time. Balance between work, health, and life. Everything was converging. And then one night, he simply handed me this, without any grand speech or anything. A mere glance, accompanied by this bracelet. Jason positioned himself beside me, maintaining a respectful distance, yet close enough for me to sense the comforting warmth of his presence. "It seems he truly perceived your presence." "He certainly did," I murmured softly, even in moments when I was lost to my own reflection. We lingered in the stillness for a moment, enveloped by the serene silence. "Take your time. There is no requirement to occupy the stillness." That was a truly exceptional occurrence. A man who understood the art of embracing silence with ease. Then he uttered a remark that took me by surprise. I never truly perceived my mother in this light before, as an individual who experienced existence prior to my arrival, prior to commencing the day's tasks, prior to embracing motherhood. I glanced in his direction. How effortlessly we can overlook it, can't we? Individuals possess multiple layers. We do not always embody the roles we assume. He inclined his head with deliberation. "Perhaps that is what I find enjoyable about assisting you with your move. It transcends mere boxes. It is narratives, fragments of your past self, and echoes of your present being." His words held a softness that enveloped my heart and lingered within. I found myself at a loss for words. With a smile, I extended a box filled with vintage records to him. "Should you wish to uncover the essence of my being, this may provide some insight." He chuckled, sifting through the pile. "Fleetwood Mac, Joni Mitchell, Carole King. Your sense of style is truly remarkable. Do you really believe I would be the sort of woman to stow away her music after I had my fun with it?" He cast his gaze upon me then, truly observed, and remarked, "I believe you are the type of woman who reserves the most significant elements for the end." There was a certain quality in his words that sent a flush to my cheeks. I had grown unaccustomed to being perceived in such a manner, not merely as an employee or a neighbor, yet as a woman carrying a rich tapestry of experiences within her. We toiled for a few more hours, each passing moment growing increasingly familiar, increasingly intertwined. In a fleeting moment, as I stretched to grasp a box perched upon the top shelf, I felt my balance waver ever so slightly. Jason grasped my waist, anchoring me just before I could falter. In that fleeting moment, we stood so close that I could discern the delicate flecks of green dancing within his hazel eyes. He held on for a moment longer. I did not either. "Be cautious," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "One must tread carefully to avoid pain." "I'm fine," he whispered softly. Yet the reality was that I found myself in a state of uncertainty. In that moment, an air of fragility lingered, not merely the proximity of bodies, but rather a profound emotional connection. It frightened me more than I was willing to acknowledge. As we settled in for lunch, I noticed his gaze fixed upon me, not in a manner that induced discomfort, but rather in a way that instilled a sense of being desired, as if I remained in sight within a realm that frequently overlooked women such as myself. "Text I remarked on your serene presence. shattering the stillness that enveloped us. He offered a smile. It serves as a protective barrier. I tend to analyze every detail, so I make an effort to appear composed on the surface. What a clever trick, I remarked. Please impart your knowledge to me. He let out a hearty laugh. I sense that there is a reservoir of strength within you that you have yet to fully reveal. The praise hung in the air, a delicate thread connecting us. I didn't sidestep it as I typically would. I allowed it to rest, to permeate, to envelop me with its warmth from the inside out. As he gathered his belongings to depart, the sun had descended further, spilling a warm golden glow through the slats of the blinds. He halted at the door, swung back in my direction. I will be available tomorrow should you require assistance. I murmured gently, though not solely with the boxes. Jason locked eyes with me, an unspoken tension dancing in his gaze. Until we meet again tomorrow. The door clicked shut, and I remained in the dimming glow, sensing a familiar change in the air once more. A prospect, uncertain yet tangible. The boxes gradually emptied, yet a different sensation within me was just starting to swell. The following day carried an unmistakable sense of change. The house, once overwhelmed by boxes and the whispers of memories, had begun to take on an unexpectedly spacious quality, not solely in a physical sense but also on an emotional level. Space had opened up for inhalation, for contemplation, for the emergence of the novel. Jason made his entrance shortly after the clock struck 10. A familiar gentle tap on the door, accompanied by that ever-present, easy smile. This time he arrived without coffee. Instead, he clutched a modest paperback in his hands. I thought you might appreciate these, he remarked, extending them to me as I opened the door. Within lay 2 freshly baked croissants from a quaint cafe near downtown, their warmth still lingering in the air. Now you're truly spoiling me, I remarked, stepping aside to allow him entry. You've earned it, he responded. For an extended period you have borne the burden of this place.
Moments.
We gathered at the counter for breakfast, standing side by side, much like old friends do, embracing the simplicity of the moment without any formality. The kitchen, with its chipped countertops and faded wallpaper, exuded a newfound warmth, as if it were rediscovering its essence as a home. Subsequently, we transitioned to the sunroom. Scattered among the remnants were but a handful of boxes, their contents a nostalgic collection of aged art supplies, canvases, brushes, and tubes of acrylic paint, some barely touched, others long since depleted. Jason knelt beside a box, retrieving a small, incomplete landscape. The brushstrokes exuded a certain audacity, slightly chaotic yet brimming with feeling. Did you create this painting? He inquired. After a moment of uncertainty, I gave a slight nod. Long ago, in a time when the world was less chaotic, he cradled it tenderly, as if it were of great significance. It is truly exquisite. You possess a formidable grip, one I once held myself. It has been more than 10 years since I last picked up a brush. What's stopping us? I shrugged, a sudden awareness of the dull ache settling in my chest. I believe I have ceased to grant myself the freedom to create solely for my own enjoyment. Life swells with activity, then retreats into silence, and in that ebb and flow, the essence of who you once were can fade from memory. Jason rested against the doorframe, the painting still cradled in his hands. Begin anew, not for the sake of others, exclusively for you. His words fell gently, creating ripples like a stone cast into still water. I chose not to respond. I had no need to. My expression betrayed a peculiar blend of sorrow and yearning. We immersed ourselves in an afternoon that resonated with a sense of the sacred. He bore the burden I organized. We exchanged tales of whimsical childhood mishaps and past romances that never quite found their footing. Departing, there existed no burden to dazzle. Nothing but authenticity, 2 souls coexisting authentically within the same realm. As we lifted the box in unison, our hands brushed against each other. Neither of us budged an inch. You've got paint on your fingers, he said, a smile playing on his lips. I found myself sifting through the collection of art supplies. Compliments you beautifully. That straightforward sentence stirred something within me. Words eluded me, and silence took their place. Yet, my gaze remained on his face for a moment too long. The delicate sprinkle of freckles adorned his cheek, and I observed how his lips formed a subtle curve whenever he was lost in thought. Subsequently, we paused for a moment in the backyard. The sun dipped toward the horizon, stretching elongated golden shadows across the lawn. I poured a couple of lemonades and we settled onto the steps, gazing out at the wild expanse of the garden. "This place possesses a serene beauty," Jason remarked, "even amidst the weeds." A smile graced my lips, that encapsulates my emotions on most days. He gazed at me then, his expression a mystery. "May you realize that the opportunity to flourish once more is yours to embrace." His tone held a weight that caused me to inhale a bit too sharply, as if the conversation had shifted beyond the mere mention of the garden. It was as if he could see beyond the layers I had not yet acknowledged I still carried. We lingered in quietude for what felt like an eternity, savoring our lemonade, as the gentle breeze enveloped us. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm glow, I rose to make my way indoors. Jason trailed behind. As we re-entered the hallway, I faltered momentarily on a creaky floorboard beneath my feet. He extended his arm with an instinctive grace, encircling my waist, providing a steadying presence. "Are you all right?" he inquired, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my breath catching slightly at the proximity between us. His hand lingered on my waist. My heart pounded with a ferocity I couldn't deny, yet neither of us chose to retreat. I believe I started, only to halt shortly thereafter. It seems I have lost the memory of what it is to be truly seen, to be embraced. Jason's eyes searched mine. "You are worthy." Both, and not merely in a fleeting manner. The atmosphere in the room was thick, not with fear or uncertainty, but with unvoiced realities, burdened by the emotions that had silently accumulated between us during those days filled with boxes and faded tales. Yet we remained within the bounds. Not at this moment. Yet, there was an undeniable quality in the manner his fingers hesitated before parting. In the manner in which he gazed at me as he gathered his bag, preparing to depart. "I'll return tomorrow," he murmured gently. "I understand," I said, poised in the threshold. As he emerged into the twilight of the evening, "I shall remain here." As the door clicked shut, I lingered in that moment for what felt like an eternity. The air lingered, still warm with all that remains unspoken. Something within me had unfurled. An unassuming, blossoming pain I had not experienced in ages. For the first time in ages, a sense of fear eluded me. The last day of the move arrived more swiftly than I had anticipated. A handful of boxes remained, filled with sentimental items I had yet to summon the courage to confront. The sun hung high in the sky as Jason made his entrance, his shirt slightly rumpled, yet his smile remained effortlessly warm. This time he arrived empty-handed, bringing only his presence. And in that moment it seemed to suffice. "Morning," he said as he stepped through the door. "Morning," I responded, my voice more inviting than I had anticipated. "Are you prepared for the final round?" He nodded, yet neither of us made a move toward the stack of boxes just yet. We found ourselves wandering back to the kitchen, drawn by an unspoken need for one last moment of tranquility before the heaviness of farewell settled in. Our words were few. It wasn't a moment of discomfort. It was brimming with substance. The atmosphere enveloped us, carrying the weight of unspoken words we had yet to voice. After a brief interlude, we at last made our way back to the living room. I motioned toward a box resting by the window. "That box is brimming with cherished letters from friends, my husband, and even notes from my younger self. It has been years since I last opened them." Jason knelt beside it, tracing a finger along the edge. "Letters serve as vessels that transcend time. Have you ever immersed yourself in a book and lost track of the year you inhabit?" "Always," I remarked with a subtle smile. He raised his eyes to meet mine, his gaze holding for a moment longer than necessary. "You have transformed since the last time you occupied this space just days prior." I inclined my head ever so slightly. He maintained a low tone as he spoke. "No, you've been holding so much within. but now it feels as though you're finally allowing yourself to breathe out. I blinked, taken aback by the striking accuracy of that sensation. As if he had observed my heart, gradually revealing itself, remaining silent until this moment. Jason inhaled deeply. There's a thought that has been occupying my mind. Concerning you, concerning this matter. He offered no further details, yet I chose not to press him. I have just listened. This caught me off guard. It was destined to occur, he remarked. I believed I was merely assisting my mom's coworker with a handful of boxes. But then our paths crossed. And you defied my expectations. I swallowed softly. What were your expectations?
I'm uncertain.
A person filled with gratitude, perhaps. Compassionate. Yet you are so much more than that. Your intelligence, humor, strength, and beauty possess a captivating quality that effortlessly draws people in, making them pause without even noticing. A warmth unfurled within my chest, radiating outward. Years had passed since anyone had addressed me in such a manner, not merely through flattery, but through the essence of truth. With precision, I moved nearer to him, my fingertips lightly grazing the edge of a box. What shall we do with this? At this moment, he gazed at me, the silence stretching between us like an unspoken question. We take our time. We refrain from assigning a label to it. We simply allow it the space to thrive. Whatever it may be, I inclined my head in agreement. That resonated perfectly. As I loaded the last boxes into my car, I observed him meticulously arranging them, his hands tender despite the burden they bore. He was not merely shifting objects. He was paying tribute to them. It was as if he grasped that they were not merely boxes, but vessels holding fragments of a life experienced. As we concluded our task, we lingered side by the open trunk. The street lay in silence, the air unmoving. He turned to Chu, his face now directed towards me. Is this really the end? He inquired. Perhaps, I mentioned. Perhaps it's best if you share your thoughts. He smiled, a subtle yet authentic curve gracing his lips. Would it be odd if I requested another chance to meet you? There are no boxes, no strenuous effort required. Only you and I. My heart, once guarded and withdrawn, began to unfurl just a bit more. Indeed, I asserted that it would be quite ordinary. He leaned in, not to kiss me, but merely to press his forehead against mine. It was a moment steeped in intimacy, surpassing all else that could have transpired. Silence, rooted in reality. Indeed, as he withdrew, his fingers gently swept a lock of hair away from my cheek. I shall give you a call. I'll be waiting, I whispered. He ambled away, the gentle jingle of his keys shattering the stillness. As he rounded the corner, I remained there, sunlight cascading over my shoulders, full of warmth and sincerity. That evening in my new abode, I found myself enveloped by a sea of half-unpacked boxes, the air infused with the scent of cardboard mingling with the soothing aroma of lavender from a diffuser I had just activated. Once more, I unearthed my old paintbrushes, placing them carefully on the table, and gazed intently at the untouched canvas before me. For the first time in years, a sense of liberation washed over me. I no longer felt ensnared. I felt seen. I experienced a profound sense of recognition, not due to the arrival of someone who completed me, but because he awakened the realization that I was already complete. Perhaps, just perhaps, a new beauty was starting to unfold on the other side of farewell.